Archie's boys and stuff as well, you know?
Yeah, Jet's fun to talk to.
Yeah, he is fun to talk to. We're going to, I was telling Katie, and she's not back yet, right?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, you are? Are we recording?
You're here now?
I don't know why that happened. That was really weird.
Yeah, that was weird.
But we're good.
Okay.
So where do we leave off? No?
We were just talking about the DEO and how with Joey was Mr. Exact, but I think we're good.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Okay.
Okay, good, perfect. So yeah, if whatever that part ended up, like you said, with Joey was Mr. Exact, and this was just a fun little way to incorporate, the antagonist, I guess you could say, the bad guy antagonist into the books here for the covers, and making Joey being that bad guy right there, and then kind of putting Joe Buckberger and Danny over here. They're D-Man and Burger in the book, so they're kind of in there. And then, like I was saying before cutoff, I'm thinking that maybe you see this foreground here of this kind of ruins and stuff, and I made it our school and sort of field where the kids land. And instead of all these slaves and people all looking decrepit, I put our kids playing football that they're there for in the episode. So it was a real good challenge, and it was fun. And I think I captured it, and I'm happy with it.
It looks awesome. And
Thank
that'll
you.
be out soon too, you said?
Yeah, that'll be out soon. So that one should be ready right first week of February is going to be my guess. And it'll be great for me because I'll feel like I have 5 of those out there that you have to read them in sequence to really kind of grasp what's going on, because the whole thing is a series, and it is serial, which is like a series, but you can read them independently alone and still get laughs out of it. Still, each one is independently has their own lesson. So the morals are there. Everything is kind of is intact, but you will miss things that are happening, throughout. Like, for instance, I mentioned in book 4, Tammy makes an appearance, and she's a recurring character. So if you start with book 7 in the summertime and all of a sudden Tammy's in there, you're going to be like, well, who is this character?
Yeah.
Because she showed up prior. So there are some things that you do need to have, just like, I guess, any series where you got to catch up with. And that's another part that's a little bit tricky too, trying to make sure that you've got this long going series that lasts however long I do it, but each specific episode or each individual episode also has its start and finish as well. So
Sweet.
yeah, cool. So that's the fun part with those things. And I was going to say, I think, Katie, I was telling you something the other day about, right before we got cut off here, I was going to tell everyone else here that something about what I said. I can't remember what it was. It had something to do with the books, I believe, but I do hope to get, like I said, this one will be ready in February, and then come summertime, just before June, I should have books 6 and 7 out as well. And it starts to get really interesting there, and the characters start to take a big turn, and everything gets really more involved, and more people that we all know start entering into the story. So it gets really fun.
Yeah,
in fact,
you mentioned some new characters when we talked.
Yes, exactly.
In there.
Yep. And so they're coming, as well as maybe 3 girls that I talked to a couple times doing an interview with. They may show up somehow, some way soon. I don't know.
Cool.
But that's gonna happen. So
I'm sure they'll freak out when they see it.
Cartoons? Wow.
I know. I was going to I want to show you guys one thing. Excuse my desktop when I remove this. It's so loaded with little icons because I'm so busy making other books as well as the Rock and Roll Kids. I got so many references and things up there.
That's awesome.
But I was going to show everybody. I mentioned how the book 1 was full color and it has it's a little bit bigger and stuff, and it's written more of like a graphic novel. And then you could see in the new books, they look closer to this. Does that show up okay? Yeah, let me move this over a little bit. So I still get to include little bubbles and fun drawings. It's black and white versus color. It's a little bit easier to print. And there's a lot of books that are out there currently that are written in similar to mine, different authors and stuff. So this format's a little popular right now. So I chose to stick with that. And
it reminds me a lot of like Diary of a Wimpy Kid.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right. So those books, The Last Kids on Earth is another one real popular. Um, and both the one I mentioned and what you mentioned too are great because those have taken off and become more than just the books. You know, they become movies and TV series. And that's always what Richie and I and Adam and everybody we gear towards. So trying to get it that way. But you can kind of see as I run through, like, just there's where Joey kind of lurks around at Exec Records.
Oh, that's
Headquarters.
awesome. Oh, it's
Right? Exec Records. And so, and then here he is getting upset. And I don't want to go too slow with this because it'll give away some of the story. But then there's virtual headquarters, which you see on the back of every book.
That is awesome. That is
So
awesome.
that's pretty fun how it's a little bit different than the other ones where it's all like a comic or graphic novel with the bubbles. But I really enjoy it this way. It's really coming out good, and it keeps it's a little more fast paced for myself to create as well. So
That is really
all right,
cool.
should we get to like maybe drawing something? I'm not sure.
Yeah, let's go for
Yes.
it.
All right. Now, believe it or not, the Rock and Roll Kids are super hard to draw because they're people, and it took me a long time to develop their characters actually. And if anybody has the very first book that I had released on Amazon, it's an introduction book. I think I titled it Art and Introduction or something. It's called Rock and Roll to the Rescue.
Yes.
If you ever look at those pages and then compare them to like the current books, there is a certain evolution or change in the characters that I always notice. Some people don't notice it because it is kind of minor, but at the same time, from day one, when I first developed these characters way back in 2014, 2015, they've really, really grown. And it's gotten easier for me to draw them, but I always do have a little bit of a harder time trying to stick to my rules, I guess you can call them. Every character when you're drawing has certain rules. Like when I was a kid, I loved the Smurfs. Here's the Smurfs right here as a little thing for me.
Yeah.
But I always remember them saying the Smurfs are 3 apples high. So like you draw like the head this way, and here's the body, and then here's the feet. And it always was like within 3 circles. So the same thing kind of applies to the Rock and Roll Kids. Like the shapes of each of their heads is a little bit unique to each character. And so I try to maintain that aspect of it, as well as tying in the idea that sometimes they're smiling, sometimes they're angry, sometimes they're, sad. And that facial expression sometimes changes the dynamic or shape of that face. So that's kind of the struggle and what makes it a little bit difficult sometimes to draw. But when I say the different shapes, let's just draw with this one. Can you guys see pretty good with?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Make it a little bit smaller, a little darker. So each character has that sort of shape, and Richie's shape of his face is always kind of like this sort of dip chin here thing. Nick's has this little chin I give him and a little bit of a square jaw.
Okay.
Mike's is very square. And since I left none of space, I'll show the other guys after. But after I do this part and kind of get that general breakdown, then it's like I give them their ears. And we're just doing a quick little rundown. Mike has this fun hairstyle thing that kind of looks like bangs. Now, this drawing that we're doing here is pretty basic, so they're not going to be perfect as the characters might find their final might look like, because I edit them and do different sketches. But this is the general breakdown of how I do it. And then Nick in the very beginning of my drawings always had his hair out, these bangs. And at the end of episode 1, he ends up getting a baseball cap from somebody. And contrary to Mike, who the character wears his hat forward, Mike wears his hat forward. I made Nick's character wear a hat backwards. So sometimes, a lot of times I give him his hat. Other times I'll give him his like long hair bangs, but I don't do it as often. I like that he has the hat, and it makes it a little bit easier for me to draw sometimes too. And it works pretty good. So Mike's got his hair and then his hat. Nick's got his hat, and then he's got the long hair. He's the rocker still,
His Cutlass days.
His Cutlass days, exactly. And then Richie always hated his hair, his character's hair, when I first designed it. But if you look at older pictures of Richie, like when he was in middle school, junior high, and he played football, he kind of had this like feathered hair. It was nowhere near as long as I draw the character, but I like that little feather look, and I just sort of took liberty with it and combined this sort of like long hair, feathery thing. And that became what his hair was like.
That's pretty cool.
And then, oops, let me get rid of that. And then the other guys, Adam has this sort of round face. Oh, that's not really good. It's round face, but a really pronounced jaw I sort of give him. Let me fix that line. For anybody wondering, I'm drawing right on my screen. For many years, I'm drawing on this computer, which is called a Cintiq. And this pen just sort of draws on it. Of course, nowadays, there's a lot of tablets that can do that. But way back when, it was pretty unique. Everyone was always like, oh my gosh, you draw right on the screen.
That's really
And
cool.
it's funny. It's funny because I've done it for years, but prior to that, before I had the Cintiq and when I was originally in school, I didn't have this, and we would have to draw with the mouse. And with the mouse, I can actually draw right-handed, but I'm a lefty as an artist. But with the mouse in my hand, I can draw right-handed. Not great, but I used to be able to do much better because I did it often, but not as much anymore.
So you're ambidextrous?
I'm ambidextrous. Is that how you say it?
Yes. Because my mom's ambidextrous too.
Oh, okay. I can do different things like, bat right, throw right, but draw left. I can eat both ways. So it's kind of good being that way. You can be a little diverse, especially if you're going out to eat and you can sit on either side of the table.
Oh, that's true.
Works good. Now, Adam has two things too, where I said Nick's got the hair and the hat. With Adam, sometimes he's got this really funky hair that I gave him. And it kind of just sits, and he's got a headband as well, like Richie does. And when he doesn't have his hair out, I give Adam the top hat, and it just kind of goes where the hair would be.
Well, that's cute.
And just sort of erase it in there. So that would be Adam's look. And then Mark's the most unique and easiest to like identify when you're drawing him. His jaw is similar to when I draw his shape. Like I said, Richie's got this one. Nick has a little chin dip. His is very square. He's got more of a pronounced chin. I do Mark very similar to Adam, but he's a little bit longer. So he still has that sort of jaw and everything as Adam, but he's a little bit longer. And then his whole head looks longer in general too, because then I give him this really spiky hair to make him. There was his ears. And then that was Mark. So those are the 5 heads, how I draw the characters straight up. So if there's any kids that are watching this out there, hopefully they could kind of follow along with what I did. It's a 3-step thing. It's the shape of the face, and then the hat and hair, and then I put their face on it, which is the next part. And that was always the other part that was hard to develop in the beginning, because I wanted everybody to look sort of unique, also kind of resemble the real person, and then also look like a kid. I've got versions, and again, if you look in that very first book where you can see the evolution, where I do a drawing of this is them at like 40, this is them at like 25, this is them at like 16. So to try to narrow it down to get them to look like I wanted was a real task. So then their noses are pretty unique too. Adam kind of has this little long curved nose in a way. I make Mark's have this like little round J hook sort of a thing. Nick has this big bump on his like that. Richie has the line like a triangle underneath. And then Mike's is very kind of straight and square. So what happened to Adam? I must have deleted him. But those nose shapes are very important to the character as well.
Ooh, okay. Wow,
And it's always
like a nose would be so important. But yeah.
I know it's super important to the design of each character. Everyone's eyes end up being somewhat similar, but then now I'm drawing really, again, I'm just sort of sketching these things as I go. None of these are completely what they would end up being. But their eyes are all pretty similar at the start. What separates them is I give Adam really thick eyebrows.
Yeah.
And then Mike's, I give him kind of similar, a little bit thinner, but his are brown. But I make sure he's got eyebrows too. And then Mark's are very simple. Nick, I sometimes give him, different expression eyebrows. And then Richie's similar to Nick's as well. So they're kind of similar. And then, like I mentioned about different expressions, so the size of the eyes could change a lot of times. Again, if you're really excited, your eyes might be bulging. If you're kind of like angry or like, what the heck are you talking about? Are you serious right now? That would be a look like that versus like, oh my gosh, I never saw that coming. So you can do different fun things with the eyes. And sometimes it's challenging because it changes how I draw some of the setup. But it's not major deal. I'm just mentioning it so people know how and why. And then another characteristic of Adam, besides the eyebrows, I always give him a little bit of a heavy bottom eyelid or eyelid. And that is an ode to his days in ... where he wore, what do you call it? Like mascara or whatever.
Oh,
and
eyeliner?
I'm sorry, eyeliner. Yes. And also we'll give him some lids sometimes. And if you look at closely at the color drawings, they're usually blue. And that's another thing that kind of showcases that part of Adam's career when he was with ... And I love to have that little nuance in there with Adam. Makes it really fun. And then Mike's always pretty straightforward. Even Mike's in general, he's very straightforward. So, and then Nick's always great because I can do fun stuff. Every once in a while, I think that it's been mentioned by you guys before. It's Lori for sure. I think, Lori, you've mentioned in the past that you love Nick's dimples.
Yes, Mr. Dimples.
So on occasion, I give Nick a dimple if he's smiling one way or the other. But I don't always do it because on the cartoon, it kind of just looks like a dot on his face or something. But every now and then he does have a dimple that I put up there. And every time I draw it, Lori, I think of you. She always loves
I'm gonna have to go look through the comics now.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to. I'm gonna take a quick look while we're talking on the covers of the two books that are in front of me and check. Yeah, so on the Who Are You cover, I gave him a dimple on his left cheek, which is the right side of his, if you're looking at him, it's on his right, but it's his left cheek. I give him a little dimple there.
Okay. I'll have to
So
look.
every time, I'm not consistent with the dimple, which is okay, I guess, but that's the trick. If you notice the dimple, I remembered it, and it's because you made mention of it many moons ago. So
I always do.
yeah, so that's why it's there. And then their mouths are always, again, the same, similar to the eyes, where you can always, do different things with their mouths, just depending on what they're up to. Whatever. Bliss is always, my girlfriend Bliss, for people that don't know, she's always telling me, you got to do different mouths. They're always all smiling or they're always all happy. And I'm always like, but they are different.
But they're always happy. I mean, whenever you see them, they seem to be in a pretty good mood.
Yeah, right. They do seem to. In real life, everybody's in a great mood. And in the cartoon, though, it's fun because I get to give them certain characteristics and play off of who they are in real life, or at least how I perceive them as.
Mm-hmm.
And then the thing I can't ever get away from, because it's just natural since I write the characters and stuff. Obviously, I try to make sure they are who they are, but there's a lot of me always that goes into each character because it's me writing it, it's me drawing it, and I find myself putting my own personal character a lot in these guys in different ways, both in Adam and Richie. And I have to, when I do things that I don't characteristically do as a person in real life, I get to do it in Nick. I'm like, oh, I would never be that bold. But I say, I'll let Nick say that. And then I get to have fun. Like, this is what I would say if I could be him.
Nick gets away with it.
Yeah, exactly. And then Richie's so fun. In very pretty similar sort of personality to Richie. So a lot of times I find myself writing something when in the story where when his character does something, it's because that's what I would do. Not always, but a lot of times, because I just find it similar. And Adam's so great because he's so funny in real life. And to try to be, it's hard to keep up with that. That's the part that is a struggle sometimes, because it's hard to write funny. sometimes. And so to do that is a challenge. And when I get it, I'm happy about it. And with Adam, he makes it easy because he is not only funny, but sometimes he's just zany and a little bit out there. So I can get away with things that I might not normally do. And then what's cool about his character is people might think he's a little crazy or a little bit wacky or something, but his character always comes back to center. Yeah. And he always has the right thing to say or the right song to sing. And it's usually when you didn't expect it. And in episode 2 called Who Are You? I'm sorry, I think it's episode 3, actually, What You Give. He's running around in his underwear a lot. And it's kind of funny and hilarious. And he's this goofy character, but he ends up, for the most part, doing what he's supposed to do and making everybody realize that he was the guy all along. As goofy as it was, he was the guy on track, making happen what needed to happen. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of cool writing for him. And Mark's great because he's so Mark. He's so unique. Everybody that knows Mark, he's one of a kind.
Yes.
And he truly is. So it's fun to write things for him. And I actually challenge sometimes finding to write things for him because I want to keep his character sort of simple, but then I want to throw everybody for a loop and show everyone, like, you might think he's pretty simple and he does this or that, but really what you don't know about him is bam, all this. And then Mark goes on some monologue or some major super thing that is like, world renowned or scientific, and everyone's supposed to be like looking around like, where did that come from? Because it's least expected, I guess, from the character. But Mark is super cool and super smart and super nice, and he's very practical, and that part makes it easy. Whenever I get a little bit too like, oh, if his character is a little plain or predictable, I just remember the real Mark and be like, yeah, it's a facade, it's a stage thing, because in real life he does so many cool things for a lot of people.
Yes. He's pretty.
Yep. And of course Mouche over here, he's my grounded character in the book. When everybody else is doing this or doing that, Mike's always there to bring everybody right back to like, yeah, whatever, let's talk about the real thing here. Cool. So
I think you got their personalities down perfectly.
Good. That's good to hear, because again, I'm alone most of the time writing it. So when I get that feedback from you guys, it's good to know.
Do you ever get their opinions or advice on it, of their characters? Do they ever?
I do when I send them stuff, especially Adam. A lot of times I will just record myself reading a line. In fact, I'll do that for you guys. I'll read a quick line from a book. It'll be from episode 4, Running Down a Dream.
Okay.
This is one I'd sent Adam before, and he got a huge kick out of. Now it's out of context, of course, so you won't know so much of the story, which is okay, but you'll understand like the story. You'll understand like the characteristic or the tone of the character, and that's what's kind of fun. And it plays in just like you said, like they give me good feedback on it. Good. I just got to find I have so many files here, so I'm just scrolling, and we'll find it in a second. Okay, so that book it's in Running Down a Dream. All right, I'm going to do a quick little scan here. I'm almost there. People are kind of seeing things that.
So while you're doing this, I tried to copy your drawings.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why, but every time I'm doing Adam's hair, he looks Jamaican.
No, it's so funny because it is tough sometimes. I'm telling you, it took me a long time to just learn how to draw them myself. It was very, very tough. It's still hard.
Yeah. I tried to switch from the hair to like the hat, and I couldn't get the hat, so we're just gonna leave it as is.
Okay, we can practice that.
Yeah.
I think I found it. Okay, here it is. I'm going to read this little part, and I read it how I think Adam would do it. Now, side note to this, I remember really quickly Katie, what I was alluding to earlier when I said we talked and I wanted to mention something.
Mm-hmm.
And what I wanted to mention was I'm going to be going into the studio with Richie soon, and we're going to record some audio for these books. And one of the big things we're going to do is the guys and I, we're going to sit down and sort of do like a table reading from book one. So it'd be really fun to get everybody's real voices on caught on camera and audio doing part of the cartoon. So that's coming soon.
Pretty neat.
That
Yeah,
was
so
really cool.
it's really gonna be fun. And when I read this part, I'm gonna read right now, it'll be great for me to really hear Adam say it. Because this is how I think it sounds when Adam reads it. Okay, here we go. Let me just see. It looks to me like there's no video to portal to, says Adam, staring up at an empty screen. Confused, Richie allows Adam to continue. Well, no matter. Wait until you get a load of this, Adam leads on. While you've been out here last night, the guys and I have been checking out our towers. Can I just say, amazing? And I've yet to see the room at the top. Richie and Lenny, still a bit perplexed, listen on as Adam elaborates. You guys should see my tower. Right above the ground floor recording studio is my main area, a second floor decorated in an entire 50s diner motif, complete with a checkered floor, records on the wall, and a vintage jukebox filled with every single Billy Joel song in it. And that's how I picture Adam doing it.
Yes, that's amazing.
So it's so fun. And I sent that to Adam just a little, and he loved it. He's like, you got to do the reading for everything. This is so me. I love it. I love it. I love it. So when I get feedback like that from the guys, I feel like, okay, it's making an impact. Like I'm hitting the marks that I'm trying to hit.
Yes, absolutely. I could definitely see him doing that.
I do too. I totally picture it. And there's little nuances in that little thing that I mentioned. A second floor decorated in an entire 50s diner motif. In Adam's real house, in his like dining room area, it does look like a 50s diner. He's got like a 50s diner table, a checkered floor. So it really does in real life mimic that. And then I put that into the story as well. So I think that's the other thing. They appreciate that I pay attention to not only making a unique story and putting their characteristics and their personalities into it, but I also pay a lot of attention to what they adore, what they love, what their hobbies are, and their own things. A lot of times the characters are really important. The side characters are side characters to you and me and maybe readers, but to Richie and the guys, they're real life people that they grew up with, that nobody knows. In episode 1, there's these 2 bullies that are bothering the main kid in the story, and they have funny names. I can't think of it off the top of my head right now, but they have really goofy names, and they come from real life when Nick was a teenager and he had to have these like gang war fights with these other kids. And those were their funny names. And so I made those kids that, and Nick really appreciated that. He's like, oh, wow, I can't believe you even remembered those kids' names and you put them in the book. So
that's amazing. It shows that you really get them, and it makes for a good story.
I hope so.
That's amazing. That is so cool. Wow.
It was
Again,
cool to see
like
his drawings come to life right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really cool.
From a half a circle to faces.
Yeah.
And emotions and feelings, like expressions and everything. I gotta work on Adam's hair, and then I'll send it to you.
Yeah, for one thing with Adam's hair, I figured out too, in the very beginning, I would draw so many of these like hairlines, and I realized that really when I draw him, for the most part, he's got this little one in the front,
Mm-hmm.
and when it's color, it's half pink.
Okay.
Now, it's kind of funny about that half pink hair is because he did dye his hair, like sometimes I believe in the ... things, little parts. But also Keith Semple had pink hair at one time, with a pinkish magenta red. You remember that, Lori?
Yes.
So I almost didn't put it in there because I didn't want to make it confusing, but I'm like, it's still unique to Adam as well. So going back to the hair, then I usually throw 1, 2, 3, 4. And then if I'm going to put his hat on his head, because it's a little bit easier, I just kind of go right across the line of where that little dip was.
Okay.
And then I tend to erase.
Well, let's
What's a
just say you're
positive?
not going to see mine because I can't draw.
I can't draw either.
That's okay. And then I like to add sometimes just maybe, one or two underneath it to make his hair just a little bit longer. And that's the part of Roy, because Roy loves his long hair. So I get to give Adam a little bit longer hair on that. And then I get to say it's also like Jet, because Jet's got the long hair.
Yes, he does. He rocks that as well too.
He does. So that's kind of the key to Adam. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 off of that.
Okay.
It's that little guy in the middle, then 4. But for many times, the very beginning, I didn't know what to do, and I was doing so many of these things, and I'm like, oh my gosh! Then he had this huge, giant reggae thing, like you said, going on.
Yes.
Yeah. So it took a long time, or like a jester. So it was
Yeah,
really weird.
that's what it started to look like.
Yes, it started, and then Mark has his hair is kind of good too, because it took me a while to learn his, but he always has 5 of these crowns. The one in the middle is dips a little bit longer, a little lower. And then he's got the 5. And then I do these like Bart Simpson things off the side.
Yes.
And I just
I
close it
don't
up.
look like that.
But that's what taught me to kind of like, okay, he's going to have 5 as the standard. That'll be the rule. And then I can play with that if I need to, depending on the situation,
That's awesome.
I have a drawing coming up. Actually, I skipped that part of the drawing because in book 5, Adam's hair gets all messed up and he's all mad. And I really wanted to draw it, but I didn't have space in the actual page to draw that. And there was another scene that was a little bit more important to the story.
Okay.
So I left the scene of his messy hair, but all I can do in my head is say, I can't wait for the real cartoon, because we're all going to see Adam's messy
That'll be really cool to see.
hair.
It'll be really funny.
Yeah, it'll be so fun. And Richie, of course, he's bent on making sure we have a cartoon one day, and we will. So this is we're just going through the motions, doing all the right stuff first, and building the story and making it all count, because we'll get there. But every time I talk to him, he's itching.
His kids get to see him with hair.
I know. They do say it to me too, especially Michael. He loves to razz him. Dad actually has hair. You know that, Roy? Dad has hair when you draw him.
Oh, well, this was really, really cool.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I feel again like I talk too much. I hate that I talk so much.
No, it helps.
Oh.
It keeps the conversation going rather than one-word answers.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to just kind of go off.
This was really cool.
I enjoyed it.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I'm
Well,
sure everyone else will. And I want, when we upload this, I want everyone, if they do it, to put their drawings in the comments so you can see.
that'll be cool. And what we'll do the next time we do this and we draw some stuff, I'm going to say it on camera. So as long as you don't edit this out, I'm going to have to hold myself to these words. Jet, I will draw a bad guy next time.
All right.
So,
All right. That will not be edited out. That's for sure. I'll keep
right, hold me to it. Jet will get a cool bad guy. And there are some cool bad guys coming up in the story that kids are really going to be into, more than just, our Mr. Exec and these kids. There's some really, really cool bad guys.
That is awesome. Well, thank you so much, Roy.
You're welcome. Here, I'm going to take the phone off so I can say hi and bye to you guys. Woo, there I am. Wait.
There we are.
There he is.
Bye.
Bye.
All my curly hair.
That is awesome. Well, thank you everyone for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Hi, good night.
Bye.